Did Luis Elizondo just confirm that we have weapons that can attack and bring down UFOs? Okay, this is really juicy. Welcome to Cosmic Road, where I explore the mysteries of the alien and the paranormal and the connections between them. This is part of a series that I'm calling Parsing Lue, where I break down things that Lou Elizondo has said in various interviews. He recently gave an interview with Engaging the Phenomenon, a terrific interview. I highly recommend it. And he dropped several bombshells there and in many other interviews. And I'm going to go one by one and explore them and see what he may or may not have meant by things that he said. In this snippet, he seems to be suggesting something involving U.S. government weapons designed to attack UFOs. Now, he doesn't say that directly, but let's hear what he has to say and go from there.
And just one crash retrieval case I don't hear talked about much. Starfish Prime. Does it sound familiar?
I've heard the name. I don't know it specifically. I know there's a lot of names for a lot of things out there. But if you want to describe it a little bit to me, I may be able to tell you.
Yeah, they were doing.
I'm not being cagey. I really don't.
Yeah, sure. They were doing a nuclear test to explode, a nuclear warhead in space, and allegedly something crashed in the ocean, and it was retrieved.
Let me. There may be some significance to E.T.s. And I'm going to go out on a limb here, so please don't take this and anybody run to the hills. This is, at this point, pure speculation based upon some potential observations made in the past. There may be some truth that an electromagnetic pulse of energy can interfere with whatever this technology is in this propulsion. And if it interferes with it, then you now have a very interesting scenario where whatever is keeping these things up in the sky, it no longer does that. Can't do it. And so now all of a sudden, if you will, the bubble pops. And so all of a sudden comes crashing down this object that has no wings, no tail, no ailerons, no obvious signs of propulsion. And now it really does become a brick, and that brick falls. Now all of a sudden gravity has a say, and Mother Nature takes over. And that's probably what I'll say right now about that.
Sure.
Okay, so Lou is suggesting that some research has been done into EMPs and how they could affect UFOs. Now, Starfish Prime, if you don't know, was a test, an experiment where they, dropped they exploded a nuclear weapon in the upper Earth atmosphere or in space and saw the results, and that's how we got a lot of data for, electromagnetic pulse and EMP. And supposedly that created a crash of a UFO that was then retrieved. So that event itself was not any sort of attack that we know of against a UFO or UFOs. Now, Lou did not comment on that event specifically. He is commenting in general about how EMPs can be used against UFOs. Again, he is not saying there are actual weapons designed to attack UFOs, and there may or may not be. But he is suggesting that the math is there, that people have worked on this, and he's not even addressing this particular incident directly. He is addressing the overall ability of us to interfere with UFOs and to bring them down. Now, this is really interesting because if you have read The Day After Roswell by Lieutenant Colonel Philip J. Corso, you will have read about U.S. attempts and success at developing weapons that can bring down UFOs. I highly recommend The Day After Roswell by Colonel Corso, a great book that really gives an overview of how uh, alien crash retrievals have impacted our civilization and have changed it radically. A lot of the modern technology that we see and use every day has its roots in alien hardware. Anyway, so a great book, but part of that book deals with us learning how to fight back against the alien presence. And I say fight back as if they are attacking us, and I don't mean that they are, but they are doing things like abducting people, mutilating cows. There are various incidents where they have kind of attacked people. For example, the Colares Brazil episode in 1977 and 78, where over 1,000 people were zapped by these craft coming out of the water, and they had very negative consequences for that. There were deaths. The people that were zapped became anemic. All the iron was taken out of them. Why did these craft do this? We don't know. And this is not the only time this has happened. So again, I'm not trying to spread panic. I'm not trying to say these guys or these beings are after us or that the phenomenon is negative in any way. But I am highlighting that there are reasons why we would develop means to counter them if we needed to. So in The Day After Roswell by Colonel Corso, it is illustrated how we did come to develop weapons against the UFOs. I believe in that book, Colonel Corso said that we had developed particle beam weapons. You can fact check me on that, but I believe those were the type of weapons that he was saying we had ultimately developed, and that indeed we had used it to bring down at least one UFO. And, if we had brought down one, we had probably brought down more than one. So this is very interesting when we compare it to Lue's statement. He is saying that we may or may not have EMP weapons to use against these craft. At the very least, he seems to be suggesting that we have researched how to do it and that we do understand, theoretically at least, how we could bring these ships down. Does that mean we have the weapons? No, of course it doesn't. And it's also interesting that if we do have these weapons, that they would be different weapons than the weapons that Colonel Corso talked about. Again, those were particle beam weapons, the ones that Lue is hinting at anyway, or hinting that might be possible, are EMP devices. Now, I hope we are not in any sort of actual conflict with the visitors, because I don't think that can go well for us. If they mean us harm, I don't think we're going to be able to do much about it. Even if we can bring down a ship or two, I don't think that is really going to change the game. Now, Colonel Corso said the goal was to make, invasion, if that was their agenda, just difficult enough to make it not worth their while. So that could be the goal, who knows? I have heard many reports of U.S. fighter pilots, as well as Russian and Chinese fighter pilots, chasing these craft in the sky and being killed. And I do believe that these craft have been fired upon by us. Does that mean we're at any sort of war with them? No, of course it doesn't, and I don't think that we are. I think that if we were at war with them, we would lose. But it does mean that we, in some cases, seem to be testing them or letting them know that we're not happy about them, about their incursions into our airspace. And there's nothing necessarily wrong with that. As a citizen of the United States, I want our military to protect our airspace. In general, I like to look at the more positive aspects of the visitors and of the phenomenon in general. I think there are a lot of positives, healing, raising our vibration, our consciousness, introducing us to a broader, more interesting cosmos. That is why I call this channel Cosmic Road, because I'm excited about the journey into our future and into the cosmos itself. So I do like to focus on the positive. However, I do go into this whole thing with my eyes open, and I do acknowledge that there are some scary, maybe negative potential parts to all this. I also believe that there are probably a range of being that is here, and they do have different agendas and different goals. Some may be positive and some may be negative. And it might be a good idea to develop ways of defending ourselves against the negative ones. And it's possible that the positive ones are working with us to do that. But that's all speculation. That's not what Lue is saying. He is simply suggesting that the math is there, that people have worked on this problem, and that we may have solutions. It's very interesting that he says, that's all I'll say about it, which strongly implies that there is more to say. So people have worked on this, and this has advanced beyond what he is able to say. Does that mean that we have weapons, that we're doing stuff, that we're working with the beings? Maybe. I tend to fall into that category. That is where my belief lies. That's what I've seen evidence for. But if you've seen evidence for a different scenario, let me know in the comments below. As always, thank you for joining me. Please hit like. I would really appreciate it. Comment below. Let me know what you think about all this craziness. And I would really appreciate it if you've enjoyed this video. Please hit subscribe and the bell next to it. Until next time, Cosmic Road out.